In the year 1998, when the Sada family, who were a poor labourer family in Bihar, India, were blessed with a son, their joy knew no bounds. They thought he would lead a good life and bring them happiness and joy. Little did they know that this child would grow up to be a monster. His actions would take his family and his whole village down a dark path and would place his little village on the world map. His actions would earn him the title, the world's youngest serial killer. I'm Anamika. Welcome to my world of mystery and anonymity. To the world of those stories that lie in wait around us, leaving us with unanswered questions that echo relentlessly through our thoughts, as if in an unbreakable magnetic loop. Join me on this expedition as we peel back the layers of these enigmas, diving into the uncharted waters of our world's most perplexing stories. The year is 2007. Amarjeet Sada, son of a daily wage labourer, was sitting in the front yard of his house, playing some little games lost in his own head like any 7-year-old boy would do. His mother, Parul, was leaving for the market and she had one important duty for Amarjeet: take care of his 6-month-old cousin, the daughter of his aunt. Amarjeet's aunt had recently acquired a job as a maid in Patna. She could not take her daughter along with her as she had no one to look after the child while she was working. So she dropped her 6-month-old daughter with Amarjeet's family, a decision she would regret for the rest of her life. When Parul returned from the market, she saw Amarjeet sitting alone on the ground playing with his toys and asked him, "Where's the baby?" She got no response from him, just a blank stare. She looked around the house and did not find the child. Now she was panicking as she was responsible for the child. She returned to Amarjeet and this time a bit more sternly asked him where his cousin sister was. The boy just smiled and replied, "I killed her." Parul was shocked at the boy's response, but she did not take it seriously at that moment. No mother could. Amarjeet was a mischievous boy, but after all, he was just 7 years old. She looked all around the house, but to no avail. Now she was worried, her heart pounding, palms sweating. Was the boy serious? She asked him again. This time, Amarjeet held her by her arm and took her into their backyard. They walked some distance from their home. Parul did not know what to think. This is not happening. A lump formed in her throat. Her chest was heavy. She walked where the boy took her. Finally, they came to a stop and he showed her where he had buried the child. Parul froze. She could not believe what was happening and frantically began to dig into the ground. Soon, broken pieces of brain and flesh came out. Parul could no longer take it and she threw up. The realization that her 7-year-old boy, the boy who was supposed to be the light of their life, was a ruthless killer, came crashing down on her. Not one word was spoken to anyone else until the boy's father, Balram, returned from work that evening. Balram was furious on listening to what had happened and he tied the boy to a pole and thrashed him. He decided that the physical punishment was enough to set the boy straight. They did not want word to get out and ruin their boy's future. So they spun up a web of intricate lies to fool the villagers and the poor child's mother, who was shattered at the loss of a child. The death was made up to be an accident and they treated it like a family matter which had to be dealt within the family. A few months passed and the family was slowly recovering from the tragedy. Another child was born into the family. Parul and Balram had a daughter. Amarjeet now has a little sister. Life was back to normal, and the death of the baby girl was considered to be an accident while the kids were playing. Because the young boy did not know any better, they believed their little boy was too young to even grasp the concept of death. When his little sister was born, they sat Amarjeet down and let him hold her in his arms. They told him that he was a big brother now, and it was his duty to protect his little sister. Amarjeet smiled and nodded. He smiled at the baby girl and she smiled back at him. Except for that one horrible day in the past, Amarjeet was the sweetest boy. Everything was going well until it wasn't. One afternoon, Parul and Balram were taking an afternoon nap in their room after lunch, and the baby was in the next room. They had left their door open so that they could hear if the baby cried. Amarjeet was playing in the next room. Out of nowhere, without any reason, after his parents had slept, he tiptoed to where the baby was sleeping and strangled her. His grip on her throat was so tight that it restricted her whole airway and she could not make any noise. All she could do was struggle with her tiny arms and legs, and soon that too stopped. She was gone. Amarjeet calmly went back to his toys and kept on playing as if nothing had happened. To him, all of this was part of his play, something he derived pleasure from. When Parul woke up from her sleep, she went on to check on the baby and found her to be sleeping peacefully in her crib. She gently touched her child, but as soon as she laid her hand on her skin, her hand jerked back in horror. The baby's skin was cold to the touch. She was long gone. Parul shrieked in horror, and her husband woke up to see the lifeless body of his child. On being asked if he had killed his sister, Amarjeet nodded with an evil smile. His parents could not fathom the depth of evil inside him, nor understand his motives for the killings. Why? They asked him, hitting him again and again. Amarjeet uttered only 3 words, just like that. Amarjeet did not even understand why he was being punished. His parents were stunned when Amarjeet asked, "What wrong have I done in killing her?" Amarjeet felt no remorse or guilt and enjoyed the pleasure of committing the crime. 2 infants dying under mysterious circumstances in the same home, and the family's visible lack of grief or concern raised eyebrows among the villagers. The villagers knew something was off. They looked at the Sada family with concern and fear. And yet, because there was no concrete proof, no one alerted the authorities. The Sada family, on the other hand, did not want to lose their son, as sons were considered as assets and blessings, and there existed a strong gender bias in the region during that particular time period in favor of male children. This strong emotion and love for their son made them protect him, and the family actively tried to hide as much as possible from the public. This was all to change soon. Amarjeet would soon find his next victim. This time, someone outside the Sada family. Amarjeet was walking by the village primary school where he heard the voice of an infant crying inside the school. Something went off inside his brain and he instinctively kidnapped the child. The child was Khushbu, the 8-month-old daughter of Chanchan Devi, a daily wage laborer who left her child at the school while she went to work. The school was supposedly the safest place in the village where her child would be well taken care of. Chanchan Devi returned to find her daughter missing. A village-wide search ensued, but the child was nowhere to be found. As the villagers were frantically searching for the missing child, a woman from the Sada family heard this commotion, and on hearing about the missing child, she immediately knew who the suspect was: Amarjeet Sada. She informed the child's mother, and the villagers got hold of Amarjeet. "Where is my daughter?" Chanchan Devi confronted Amarjeet with tears rolling down her cheeks. Amarjeet showed no remorse or fear. He calmly told her that he had killed her daughter. The villagers did not know what to do with such a little boy who claimed to be a murderer, and so they handed him over to the police. The police at first did not take the story seriously. They had never encountered a criminal so young, let alone a murderer. His feet barely touched the ground as he was sitting on a chair at the police station. Amarjeet was still calm and did not seem to comprehend the gravity of the situation that he was in. He even demanded biscuits in exchange for the story of the murder. The police complied with his request and he gladly took them to the location where he buried the baby. Everyone's worst fear was now confirmed. The boy had brutally murdered the baby. He even explained in detail how he went about it, how he choked the baby, and that he found it boring that the baby was not fighting back. He then found a piece of brick and started smashing her head with it until the brains fell out. He dug a grave for her and buried the body. On further questioning, Amarjeet also confessed to the previous murders that he had committed. Psychiatrists evaluated Amarjeet and found that he was suffering from a conduct disorder. He had sadistic tendencies and a severe chemical imbalance in his brain, leading him to receive gratification from inflicting injury on others. He also had no sense of right or wrong and targeted babies since they were smaller than him and could not retaliate. Amarjeet Sada was arrested and sent to a children's home until he turned 18. In 2023, he is now 25 years old and walks freely among us with a new identity. Watch out, because you might run into him. The stories don't end here. Join me in this journey every Saturday at 9 p.m. to dive deep into the shadows, uncovering the tales that send shivers down your spine. If you're ready to embark on a journey into the unknown, hit that subscribe button and join our community of fellow mystery enthusiasts. Buckle up because it's about to get mysterious in here.